You're listening to Offer Accepted, the show that is all about fostering careers in real estate and growing your real estate team. Your host is Vanessa Rosenblum. Vanessa is the president of a search firm called Pro REA Staffing, where they help real estate agents hire talented people so that they can grow their businesses. On this show, Vanessa interviews real estate industry professionals from real estate assistants to team leaders of mega teams to learn how they achieved their current level of success and what they're doing to rise to the next level in their career or business. Whether you are exploring a career in real estate or you currently run a large real estate team and you want to be better at recruiting, training, and managing your employees and agents, this is a show you'll want to follow, so don't forget to hit subscribe. All right, let's go to the show. Here's your host, Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. Welcome to the podcast. Let's say you're a successful real estate agent. Business is cruising along and you feel good, but you want to do more. Today, we're going to explore several of the next opportunities. Those opportunities for successful real estate agents who want to take it to the next level. And we're going to have this conversation with a man who decided to take on not one, not two, but several of these next opportunities. Mark von Kaenel has a personal real estate business that did over $1 million in GCI in 2018. He operates a property management company that has over 1,000 doors under management, and he is a Keller Williams Operating Partner with multiple locations in and around Silicon Valley, California. He has also started and divested other businesses during his real estate career. And today I have three overarching questions for Mark. The first is why? Why was he motivated to take on the added business risk and complexity of multiple businesses? And how on earth does he balance it all? And then finally, I want to find out what he's learned and how he's applying what he's learned to this next phase of his business. I should also mention that Pro REA Staffing is currently helping Mark fill several open positions within his massive organization. If you live in the Los Gatos, California area, I encourage you to check out the links to his open jobs. I'll include them in the show notes. Oh, and finally, one more thing, you guys. Look, the audio on this file is not the best, and I apologize for that. However, I think the content is really worth a listen. All right, let's dig in.
Hey, Mark. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I have so much I want to talk to you about. But before we get into the specifics, I always like to sort of get people's origin story. So when and why did you get into real estate?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know if you have enough time for that one. Boy. Okay. Well, I think it was back in 93, 94. I was probably one of the youngest agents at the time because at that time we were, I think everybody else in the office was 50 plus. But yeah, about between 93 and 94. And that was when I got into real estate. Why I got into real estate, I had a business that we had started in college, my wife and I. And we were in Southern California, wanted to get married and come back to Northern California and raise our family. So we had sold our business in Southern California, came up here, and we were just eyes wide open at every business opportunity we could look into, everything from the car industry, car dealerships. That was the similar business to what I sold. We were looking at restaurants and kind of just landed in real estate because we were looking for homes ourselves and really couldn't find an agent who was willing to listen to us and sit us down and kind of just tell us be brutally honest with us. We kind of had that, that Cadillac mindset with the Volkswagen budget at the time. So by the time we went through 3 or 4 different agents, and at the same time I had a chance meeting with one of the founders of a pretty large local company up here. And he kind of just sat me down and said, hey, this is a business where if you approach it as a business, it'll be very rewarding for you. At the time, I did not want to have a lot of employees because the company I sold had about 40 employees and never experienced my first problem in business until I hired my first employee. So I didn't want to go down that road again. And he just said, listen, you can make as much money as you want. Maybe you might have one assistant or so, but you approach it as a business, you'll do great in it. And jumped into it and never looked back.
Amazing. Yeah, the joke is more people, more problems. Not more money, more problems.
Well, and that's I know we're going to talk about that, but that's definitely one of those catch-22s, right? Because you have to have with growth, you have to have that leverage as well.
Absolutely. All right. So a couple of years in, you then started a property management company. What was the impetus for that?
Well, as a individual real estate agent at the time, I had a lot of clients that had the need for property management, and I found myself referring them out to other companies. And then they would, several of them would come back and point the finger at me that my resource wasn't the greatest resource, and I was kind of getting that blame just for the referral. So I said, well, I might as well step up, and therein lies an opportunity. We started the company around 95. It was as soon as I got my broker's license, and again, never looked back. I mean, it just supplemented our real estate side of the business. As of today, it is a completely separate company from our real estate business, and we've got about 9-10 employees in it. But it was really out of the need that we saw for our clients and for us to be able to control the customer experience and the service.
Perfect. So, so in 1996, you're running a real estate company and a property management company, and it sounds like things were really just humming along. You're growing. Things are good. And then in 2013, you decide to become a franchise owner and open a Keller Williams franchise. What was the impetus for that?
Yeah, that's a big fast forward, right? 2013. So, I had floundered back and forth from companies because back in the mid 90s, similar to today, we had a lot of the large corporations coming in and buying up all the small independent companies, of which real estate used to be. And through that time period, I ultimately went independent. In about 2000, we went independent, and I was kind of the renegade diehard real estate agent. I really, at the time, didn't really like what I saw that big real estate was becoming, or just real estate in general was becoming, and started my own independent brand. And as you mentioned, fast forward to 2012, 2013, we had about 30 agents. We only focused on producing agents. We had 2 offices, and we started having everybody knock on our door. Everybody, all the major companies were knocking on our door, and I was sitting there going, why are they knocking on our door? And I later learned that there was a Business Journal had ran an article of the top companies in the area, and we were the number one independent with less than 35 agents. So KW was one of those companies knocking on the door, and honestly, at that time, KW wasn't really a company you wanted to associate yourself with. However, after, I always look at opportunities, and I'm willing to listen. So really peeled the onion back and met with all the major players and really understood what the opportunity was and understood what the model was. And I've always been one for real estate agents. And through that experience, I saw how it was no longer an agent-centric industry. However, KW was an agent-centric model. And that's what attracted me to it. I also realized that as an independent broker, we have a glass ceiling. And, as an independent broker, you wind up, just like in any small business, wearing many, many hats. And at the time, I was wearing a little bit too many hats, and I saw that KW was an opportunity for me to kind of give back to agents with a model that put them first and foremost, and also provide some leverage in my life that also opened up further opportunity that I believe was the case.
Perfect. So you got into business with Keller Williams, and you had 3 offices. Now, how many market centers do you have currently?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we currently have 3. We launched originally with Los Gatos, California, and then we were given the opportunity a year later or so for Carmel, and about a year and a half ago we opened up Saratoga that encompasses also Los Altos, California as well. So currently we have 3 territories or 3 franchise licenses.
Fantastic. All right. And so I know that over the last 5 or 6 years, you've seen massive growth. There's been a lot of change in your business. Can you talk about that? What happened over the last 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, I mean, there has been massive growth. As one of the challenges we have is as I see additional opportunity, we start grabbing a hold of it. So over the last 5 years, the real estate market's been overall incredibly just an awesome opportunity in Northern California, and we kind of just rode that all the way through over the last 5 to 6 years. So definitely that helped to our growth, but also the fact that we had a truly engaged, highly influential ownership group that we were able to leverage each other and support each other through that growth. So, as far as we just basically grabbed the opportunity that we could. We ensured that we hired key people the best that we could and leveraged those opportunities and those resources at the highest level at the time.
Yeah, and I've had a chance to see you go through all of this because of my connection with some of the other ownership people in your group. And it's been really fun to watch. I mean, you've been on a crazy ride. And I know that that comes with its own set of challenges. So if somebody else was looking at you and where you are today and they said, yeah, I want to own a bunch of offices and I want to grow big like that, what are some of the pieces of advice? What are some of the, like, here, honey, let me put my arm around you. Like, let me tell you what's really going on. What should they know about the kind of challenges you'll face through that?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's perception versus reality, right? From the outside in, it'd be like, oh, great, success, all that. But as you mentioned, with success becomes those challenges. And it has been a challenge. And it's been one that we've had to learn from and step aside when we need to. But with grabbing a hold of every opportunity that's coming around, you also realize that you start stretching yourself thin, and you need to ensure that it's a structured, very well strategized growth where you're maximizing your resources, and as you're discovering the holes and challenges that you have, really be able to have the opportunity to, I call it bob and weave, to acknowledge where those challenges are and those holes that you have to kind of fill along the way. Because if not, you're going to get yourself stretched very thin and you're not going to be good at anything. And we kind of found ourselves in that position probably about a year and a half ago. And we said, okay, let's stop. During that time, we opened up other ventures, a construction company, and we were doing a sign company and all these other ventures. And we just kind of have to put the brakes on everything to just kind of, wheel back to what are our highest ROI opportunities that we needed to focus on. So, yeah, we had major challenges with that, and it's a constant evolution and learning lesson that we went through.
And I think so much of it probably ties back into the leadership you're able to attract and keep, and just talent all the way through the organization. And I mean, it's like we said, more people, more problems, right? So I love that you got into real estate so that you didn't need to manage people. And 2 decades later, I mean, how many people are in all of your organizations? Dozens upon dozens.
Yeah. Currently now, the question is, how many people do we have in our current organization?
I mean, how many people are you essentially responsible for?
Which, by the way, I never did this to be a manager because I do not like managing, but unfortunately that's part of the gig, right? So currently we have a little over 350 agents between the offices that we have, and we have, staff within the KW world or Keller Williams world is probably 20 to 30. Our property management company has about a dozen individuals. And then I have my own production team that we have several people on that team as well.
Okay, so for a guy who doesn't want to manage, how does that work? I mean, what kind of, what do you have to do to step into that role?
I got to find somebody to replace me. I got to find somebody who loves to manage, and that's really what I'm working towards. Those are those challenges you talked about earlier, that you have these great ideas of what you want to accomplish, but there's some details along the way that put you into different roles that you don't have any choice but to manage those. And the ultimate goal is to find somebody that can. I always, anytime I coach an agent, I say, listen, if you're creating a job description for somebody coming into your organization, first sit down and write down all the things you don't like to do, and that's going to help you create that job description. But there's a time that you've got to do those things. Identify those things that you're weak at, the ones you don't want to do, and then try to hire that out or leverage that out as quickly as possible. So that's kind of where my direction at this point is, and it's a challenge in doing so because it's that hard part of giving up control, right? So you wind up being that manager yourself until you realize that, ultimately, as we get older, you realize what you really want to do and what you don't want to do, and that's something that I'm kind of working through, of giving up the control and finding somebody that can replace myself in that arena.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And also, when you're writing a job description for somebody else, you also have to rewrite your job description with your new responsibilities as a manager. And I talk to so many agents, and I'm sure you coach them too, who they want to run a big team. They want the buyer's agents. They want to have this whole group, but they don't want to manage, and they're not good at, and they won't take responsibility for that. I mean, you've taken responsibility for it. You understand your strengths and weaknesses, and you look for ways to replace you in places where you're not strong. But I think some people just think that they can run a team and not manage, and that doesn't work. right? I'm sure you see that.
We see that a lot, especially in the world of Keller Williams, but in real estate in general, in the direction it's going, a lot of people they believe that's the answer. And that we've had the opportunity to have some of the largest teams and most successful teams work under our umbrella. And I got to be honest with you, a lot of those teams are very dysfunctional, and several of those individuals that have those teams or had those teams are now saying, hey, they're not sure if that's truly the right answer based off of our industry and due to the amount of time, effort, management that they have to put into those teams and to net out what they really want to do to fund their life.
I think you just have to be really honest with the responsibilities that come with that. Now, one of the things you've done to help manage all of this is you've hired a director of operations, Karen Fornash. She's basically your implementer. When did she come into your organization, and what was the motivation for bringing her in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was one of those individuals throughout my entire career that it was all me, and I don't want to give up control. And one of the things that Keller Williams did open my eyes to is that if you're going to grow, you have to have strong individuals on your team. So Karen was kind of teed up to me as one of those key individuals. And I fought it for a while, and ultimately we laugh about it now. But what made me truly pull the trigger on her was that we had somebody else that was going to hire her, and they were in my office. And when it came down to, he had to come to me and say, "Listen, if you don't hire her, we are going to hire her." And that got me off my rear end to make that hire. And to this day, it's been the best business decision I've ever made.
So interesting. So you really wanted to have your hands in everything and have that control. And now you are faced with this person who is going to help you implement all those things and take some of that control away from you. What were those first 6 months like as you learned to work with her in this role?
Yeah, I mean, it was challenging because as somebody that had been in that mindset for about 20 years to then step back. But I think the key, and there was a huge financial commitment on that side too that holds a lot of people back from making that big hire. So I had gone through that, and fortunately I had enough business experience to know, well, okay, that's you get what you pay for. But Karen did an incredible job with showing me that she can make. What I learned through Karen early on was that we all, as long as we share the vision on where we need to get there, we might not all take the same path to get there, but as long as the result is accomplished, and she was able to show me that, hey, there's other ways of getting where we need to go. As long as we're accomplishing that result, it's okay. And I had to accept that and step back. And as I saw that she was absolutely of the same mindset, that our goals and our vision were the same, and she was able to accomplish that, and there were many things that she was able to do a lot better than I could do. And that was pretty the early days in the first 6 months. She was able to show me that, and I was able to kind of suck it up and just step back, as difficult as it was. But we were able to accomplish quite a bit of many results, and then it allowed me to kind of look at some other opportunities. And you start seeing those results come to reality, and that. It was an interesting first 6 months, but she did a great job in showing me that it's okay to step aside.
Well, and you've mentioned to me before that once you realized that you had this implementer, this amazing person by your side, your serial entrepreneur instincts kicked in, and instead of stepping back, you just went full force, and you're like, let's open more businesses, right? A classic.
Yeah, like I said, everything evolves and it's all a learning lesson, right? I mean, when one door opens, it's, we were barging through all the doors, and she got caught up into it too. I mean, because of course the compensation from her was, it was a matter of, listen, you help me build this and you get a piece of it too. So we were jumping on everything, and we quickly, we realized together that, okay, we gotta police each other too. And she's definitely learned, and I've learned that she's got to be my she's got to police me. And when I come up with some of these crazy ideas, it's like, all right, wait, let's get this one running 100%, then let's jump into that other one. And it's a big challenge because as true entrepreneurs, you sit there and you say, well, geez, that's an opportunity. We got to, opportunities that come around all the time. You got to blast right through that door. But you've also got to realize that that you've got to focus on those highest ROI items. And while you don't want to lose out on opportunity, you have to ensure that you have the proper structure and foundation in place. Otherwise, everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah, well, and let's talk about your personal real estate business, because this has continued to be, one of your best ROI companies. So last year, I think you mentioned you did. Yeah, what did you do in volume last year?
We were around 46 million in production volume, and our GCI was about 1.1 million.
That's fantastic. It's amazing that you managed to do that with everything else you have going on. So talk to me about the structure of that team. How do you build a real estate business that gives you the freedom to go and do all of these other ventures? That's a great question. It also comes with a lot of frustration too, and that's probably one of the biggest things that keeps me up at night, because where I see that I've been a producing real estate agent for over 25 years. So I'm an old school geographical farmer. We probably spend 10 to 15 grand a month in just the geographical farming, reaching out to our database. So we have some really great fundamentals in our real estate business that kind of just happens. And the problem is we're mostly reactive. And while that sounds like some great production, what keeps me up at night is the potential that production could be if I was able to focus more time on it. We've constantly gone through evolution on that team. I've had that team as big as where we have our own marketing person, we have our own ISA, we have our own buyer's agent, we have a team manager, we have an executive assistant. And currently, through last year, I even brought a partner agent in last year that failed miserably. And it's very challenging when you believe you are so successful and you have so much experience, but you constantly see these battles and challenges that are thrown in front of you. And I've just realized that we have to always evolve as business, because the one issue that we constantly have is we're dealing with human beings, and human beings are not always consistent. So where I'm at today, we're rebuilding the team again. So currently have an executive assistant, team manager, that you guys actually brought into our world, and it was, again, second to Karen. It was the one of the best hires we've ever made. But right now we have Ariana in that position, myself, and we're looking for another role too. And I've really identified what I believe is in our area, in an affluent market area where our average price point's about $2 million. We don't have to sell 300 homes a year to make significant income. So I feel in our area there's a sweet spot, and that would basically be, in my case, a partner agent, somebody who has as much experience as I have, where they might go to listing appointments and do things that I might not want to do. And then we have a junior agent who's the person that's running around out in the field doing the flyers, lock boxes, open houses, those type of things. And then we have a team manager. Obviously, we outsource our TC work, and then we outsource our marketing. But I find that with that team, we should easily be able to do $2 million in GCI, as long as everything is humming right along and all the cylinders are going. Perfect. Let's talk about this executive assistant, because I think you had a few ahas through this search. So first of all, Why is she the best assistant you've ever had? We changed our focus. Ever since I got in this business, I've had an assistant. And I've had some great assistants, and I've had some bad assistants. My great assistants will go 5 to 7 years. And then life happens. Either there's marriage, there's kids, and just general life happens. One thing I always caution everybody is don't become too comfortable with the situation. Always know that you have to evolve and be prepared for those life-changing issues that come along the way. In the past, especially with this last hire, we are always focused on somebody, no, they have to have real estate experience. We don't have time to train somebody on the contracts and all of that. And it's kind of funny, in this last situation, when we talk about leverage, I completely stepped aside. As a matter of fact, I don't even think you know this, I never interviewed Ariana before she got hired here. I outsourced that to, your company, in addition to Karen and my marketing director. We focused not necessarily on the real estate experience, but we focused on what's really important in our industry right now: customer experience, customer service, organization skills,
the ability in our world to have a tough skin, because we run very, very fast. It's very challenging for anybody on my team from the real estate production side, because I don't always get to dedicate my time to the real estate production. So sometimes they're a little frustrated that Mark is down in Carmel or Mark's focusing on other opportunities when there's deals falling through the cracks. So they have to be able to understand that. And then when we do get busy, we're just high D, and this is what has to happen. And sometimes that could be interpreted in the wrong way. So we had to have somebody with thick skin, customer service. So we focused on those, and we found Ariana, or you guys found Ariana. And the fact is, she had zero real estate experience, but she came from, in fact, when Karen called me up and said, "Oh, we've got a great candidate," she was a wedding planner and event planner. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? Why is that? They have no real estate experience. But then when I dove down into it, I'm like, what creates the biggest challenges in our world? We're an anxiety, emotional-ridden business, and it's organization. Mm-hmm. Well, here was somebody that was brought to the table who's more anxious than the bride on their wedding day. And to be able to manage that situation, and this is also somebody, when you're dealing with event planning and stuff, you've got contracts that are 15 pages long. So she brought to the table this incredible ability to manage expectations, to manage details, to manage anxiety levels and emotions. And it's been an incredible ride, and I'm sitting there every day just doing whatever I can to keep her happy. We do not want to lose her.
That's so amazing. And I think that's such a good point about what are those core skills that are really necessary for the role. You can teach somebody real estate. You can't teach somebody to be organized or to be able to love on an anxious bride when they're, becoming a bridezilla or whatever.
Yeah.
So what did it take to get her trained up?
Well, it's a great question. I have to tell you, she's been here for we were just talking about this yesterday, she's been here about 3 months, and we haven't skipped a beat. Her lack of real estate knowledge has not impacted us whatsoever. Her communication skills with our clients to be able to provide them updates of what's happening, the ability for her to manage contractors when we're getting properties ready to list, have all helped her not to have to get so caught up in the weeds, because she's already ahead of that. As far as the transaction part of it and the contracts, we use an outside TC. So she's basically just been pushing that over there, and she has knowledge of contracts. So, our wonderful boilerplated California contracts or any real estate contracts, so you don't have to be a genius to kind of figure out what they say as long as you read them. So the training part of it, although she did mention yesterday, I asked her what is her biggest distraction. She goes, it's that learning curve. From where I sit, I haven't really seen that's been a distraction for her. But she did mention that's probably about 30% of the time that she has to spend is just getting her head wrapped around things. But as far as I'm concerned, her efficiency is better than any of the assistants I've ever had. And again, I've had some very, very good assistants. But again, I think that goes back to because we focused on the elements and what was really the fundamentals that was importance of this job and how we relate to the consumer.
You also made some changes around the way you compensate for this role. Do you want to talk about that?
I do. Yeah. I've always thought through my career that having some part of a bonus structure motivates people. And I think to a degree it does. But what we found, we basically would hire people at a lower base pay and give them an opportunity that as we produced more transactions, they would get paid a bonus per transaction. But what we found is it actually created some animosity. And the reason why is because, again, I don't get to work 100% on my production business. In fact, I only work maybe 20-30% of my production business. The rest of the time, it's managing KW offices, it's managing our property management company. We also do spec building and stuff like that. So the individual in that role, they would see leads coming across our desk that we weren't working. So in their mind, they're seeing money going right through their fingers. And we didn't have the ability to focus on that. So what we did in this role, we said, listen, let's just compensate this person, including all those bonuses, because we know that we're going to generate that type of business. So instead of doing, say, a $60,000 base, we did an $80,000 base, because that also gives us an opportunity to bonus them out at the end of the year at whatever level we want. But we were able to, at that higher base pay, as you know, we were able to get a much more, a better quality candidate for the role. And we're seeing it. You truly get what you pay for. And I do, now looking back at it, when you have somebody looking online, I believe if you're just in our area, Silicon Valley, I know for the rest of the country, $60,000 sounds like a livable income. In ours, I mean, that's what a receptionist makes basically at the front desk. So if somebody's looking for a $60,000 base, that's the type of employee you're going to get compared to somebody who's looking at $80,000. So the quality we were able to see, and I think that was your guys' recommendation, was absolutely, I think, critical in finding the right person for this role.
Yeah, well, in your area is just, I mean, it's I always cringe every time I have to tell someone in your area what they need to pay because it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when, in San Francisco, a one-bedroom apartment will cost you, what, $4,500 a month?
Oh, easily. But here's what I tell our agents with it. I mean, let's say it's $80,000 a year to get a quality person, right? Let's say it's $100,000 to get a quality person. Our average price point's $2 million. On one house, you get $50,000 in income. So 2 houses, if that person working for you 40 hours a week isn't going to generate at least an additional 2 transactions per year, which in general, if they're doing it right, will generate 6 to 10 transactions a year, not to mention you're going to tap into their database, that person will pay for themselves over and over again. So it's all relative to where we're at. And that is a hard thing. True. That's a hard thing for individual agents to understand because they're like, oh my God, it's another mouth to feed. But I know we can have a longer conversation on that, but I always say in our area, it's good news and bad news. It's good news that you don't have to sell a lot of homes to make good money, but that's bad news too, that you don't have to sell a lot of homes to make a lot of money.
Yeah,
and that,
exactly.
And that creates very, very interesting issues. But I know that's another conversation.
It's a whole other day. Now, I want to talk about your junior agent role. We're currently looking for this person for your team, and you've restructured this role as well. So what do you envision for a junior agent? What does that role look like?
Well, the challenge, we need somebody that we can direct. We need somebody. So what we're trying to, the thought with this new role is that it's a salaried position. It's an employee mentality. It's somebody that wants a stable income and is okay being in a supportive role. The challenge we've had before where we've had this role as a commission-based buyer's agent or junior agent, whatever you want to call it, but where they're not salaried, we've been challenged with that individual that is using it just as a training ground so then they can take off and learn your business and go. And I think that's a fear that a lot of agents have that might be more perception than reality. I mean, I've always told anybody at my company or in my organization that our opportunity, our goal is to provide them more opportunity within our world than outside of it. And we always have to know that people are looking for other opportunity. And if they're talent, they're going to find other opportunity. So we'll tell people when they come in, listen, just commit a year. If you decide you want to go on your own, let's communicate that and let's find your replacement. And, we'll support you on that new venture. But we had challenges when it's that commission-based, and also with agents understanding that they're going to work for a team. It's not about them. It's about the whole team. So that's where this concept of hiring a salaried individual, not to mention, I know in our state of California, we're really getting pressured by our employment development agencies and stuff that you got to be very careful with how you classify that independent contractor to the employee status. So this is a new role that we're trying. I have to say, as you know, it's been challenging to try to get the right mentality around that role for the person, for the candidate. But we have very high hopes, and that's the direction that we're going.
Yeah, and a lot of my clients in California are doing this. I mean, just if you look at how little control you can have, like you basically can have no control over somebody on your team if you're only paying them on commission, and that's not feasible, right? So it makes sense to at least pay them, some kind of base salary. And you're right. I mean, if you want somebody who is more focused on the team and, wants to be more of a service to your clients instead of just trying to get the deal done. I think that's what you have to do. The challenge that we find with this is that when somebody is on salary, the hours become an issue. I mean, the mentality of I'm going to work whenever I need to because that's the role of a buyer's agent. I'm going to work nights and weekends. I'm going to be on call comes up against the mentality of somebody who is looking for a steady salary. And so it's possible to find somebody who is okay with both, but that's one of the challenges that we see is somebody's like, yeah, I want to do this. This is great. I want a salary and I want to show homes. That sounds like a great gig. And then they're weirded out by the number of hours and the flexibility required. So yeah, I mean, the right person's out there, but there's no perfect solution, I think. So you're going to find a problem no matter how you fix it.
that's where you have to understand you have to have flexibility. We've talked about that. I mean, there's going to be this scenario where we want this person to do open houses. So if they have open houses Saturday and Sunday, then, let them take off Thursday and Friday. So there's that flexibility you have to have around any of these roles, because we also want to focus that our individuals and we have great quality of life too. It's not just all work. You have to try to interject that balance. That's something we really, really do focus on is that we absolutely have quality of life, that everybody takes lunches when they need to take lunches, that they don't need to be working after hours. And, when problems arise, it's not like the sky's going to fall. So let's focus on ourselves and that quality of life as well.
Well, and I love that you talk about that because it's fascinating to me how different teams' perspectives are on this. I mean, some teams really are, I expect my assistant to sleep with their phone, and other teams say, no, after 7 o'clock, it's after 7 o'clock. Well, we'll deal with it the next day. And yet both can be successful, and one has far less stress and far happier employees. And the other side, the 24/7 people, don't believe anything else is possible.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of longevity. Those would be great clients for you because there's a constant turnover going on there.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just putting it out there, it is possible to have work-life balance and to set boundaries and make a massive amount of money in real estate.
That's correct.
Right. Amen. Okay. So let's talk about your big goals. What's next for you and your organization?
We want to streamline. I want to make things as simple as possible. We talk about that quality of life. We are focusing on the foundation right now that allows us to be able to step back a little bit. It's been a little crazy over the last 5 to 6 years because we've been very successful with that growth. But again, there's those challenges. So the goals for this year is to streamline, focus on our highest ROI activities, and by the end of the year, get it to where it's manageable and we can actually truly enjoy what we've built. So we're not taking the foot off the gas at all. We're just ensuring that the highest ROI ventures that we have, that's where the focus is. And it's really focusing on bringing in the key people to our organization that will be those fundamental building blocks that we really need to make it truly happen.
Those sound like fantastic goals. And I know that for you, one of the things that we've talked about is you being able to be less involved in the day-to-day, to manage the business from Cabo or wherever you want to be with your wife and your family, and how cool that you've been able to build this enterprise that, you see that light at the end of the tunnel where, you really will be able to leverage yourself out of your business.
Yeah, as long as
at some point. I'm sure your wife is like, get on it.
Well, it is. And, I promised her, that's another story. I promised her at 50 we would start taking a look at that, and I turned 50 in October. So she's on me. And as long as that light at the end of that tunnel is not a train, I think we'll be okay.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much. It was so great to peer into your world and to learn about all of the things you've had your hands in and what you've learned along the way. So thank you for your time today.
Well, and I also want to thank you. You've been a critical part of our growth over the years, and we look forward to many more placements with you. So thank you very much, Vanessa, and I really do appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Offer Accepted, the podcast for fostering careers in real estate and growing a successful real estate team. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. You can also check us out on YouTube. Search Pro REA Staffing and you'll find this and a ton more content all around hiring and managing your growing real estate team and launching your career in real estate. We'll see you in the next episode.